What if you lived in the countryside when you and your friends start to be chased by a clown named Frendo, who lives in a cornfield? What would you do in this situation?
Snatch and run, yeah!
This is the story of Clown in a Cornfield, a film released in 2025, and that I will recap and beat this dirty clown while I give the best hints for you to survive in this situation. First, subscribe to the channel to see more evil clowns being knocked out here, and destroy the like button. The film begins in 1991 in the small town of Kettle Springs, Missouri. A group of young idiots are partying next to Baypen in a corn syrup factory. A random girl appears spinning a music box from which a hideous clown emerges. Bored, she decides to take off her shirt and seduce a young dude, luring him into the cornfield. Unfortunately, he won't be able to have some fun today as something goes through the girl's back, or should I say, a clown with nasty intentions. The boy runs, but to the wrong side as he gets deeper and deeper into the cornfield until he comes face to face with a scarecrow. In this case, he could have climbed the structure to see where his friends were and run in that direction to survive. But forget it, since he is dumb and ends up being lifted by Frendo, the Baypen mascot. The story then fast forwards to the year 2025, when we meet a family formed by the father named Glenn and daughter called Quinn, a rebellious teenager more boring than my grandmother telling the same story from her past for the 17th time. Glenn and his daughter are moving to Kettle Springs because he got a job as a doctor and is going to replace the old one who's retiring. The problem is that the house he bought is in the middle of nowhere, where there's no phone reception and the property doesn't even have Wi-Fi. As if that wasn't enough, there is a smell of something dead inside the house. Quinn checks the chimney and finds an out-of-date animal. The next day, we see Quinn getting ready for school. When she leaves the house, Quinn comes face to face with Rust, a local young man who loves to hunt and who for some reason reminds me of Human Shrek. The boy volunteers to walk with Quinn to school when some other students drive past them. Rust tells Quinn to be careful who she befriends, as there are a lot of strange people at school. In the first class, we see Quinn starting off on the wrong foot as she arrives late to teacher Vern's class, who gives her a scolding. The funny thing is that the relationship between the teacher and his students is not the most respectful in the world, as someone made a montage with Vern's face and put it in a well-toned body. Vern gets mad at everyone and decides to give a surprise test. However, one of the girls says that this would be unfair to Quinn, who is not aware of the class content. The teacher then replies that Quinn shouldn't have been late to class.
I missed the part where that's my problem.
Nevertheless, the girl defends herself by saying that the administration marked the wrong room in her schedule. Forget it, as Vern doesn't care and puts her in detention. Vern's authoritarian attitude doesn't last long, as he is trolled again as the man distributes the tests and doesn't realize that someone has replaced them for montages of his profile on a dating app. A few hours later, we see Quinn interacting with the popular students at the school, which includes the couple Ronnie and Tucker, his best friend named Matt, Cole, who is the son of the oligarch and owner of Baypen, and finally we have Janet, the girl who's Cole's greatest fan and is dying to meet his seductive moves. The juvenile gang brings Quinn up to date with a local holiday called Founders Day, in which the town celebrates the corn crops and especially Baypen's mascot, in this case Frendo, the clown. While Frendo is adored by the town's oldest inhabitants, with the young people the story is completely different, as Cole and his friends turn the character into a serial killer who finishes off the teenagers in the area. To make things worse, they film several videos that show the clown hunting his victims. In one of these pranks, we see Tucker, who pretends to be chased by Frendo at the corn syrup factory. Later, we see Quinn having dinner with her father, who immediately scolds her for being detained. However, she once again says that the teacher was an idiot. We then meet a waitress called Trudy, who provides the best service to Glenn. However, she seems to despise Quinn, as we can see when the lady takes her order. Who also shows up to eat that juice steak is Sheriff Dunn, a friendly cop. On the other hand, Quinn doesn't like him much because Dunn calls her sweetheart. Anyway, Cole knocks on the glass of the diner while accompanied by his friends. He beckons Quinn to go out for a walk. The sheriff doesn't like this and says that the best Quinn can do is distance herself from Cole and his gang, as they have been causing a lot of trouble in the town. Even so, Quinn dismisses his father and joins the dynamic young people. Ronnie asks if she has a fake ID for them to buy booze, but Matt says they don't need it since he has intimidating girly biceps. I sincerely think he lacks some whey protein there. there. The group enters Otis's grocery store, a guy who, like the others, apparently hates young people. That's when Matt and Tucker stage a fight, in which Tucker lies saying that he had an affair with Matt's grandmother, and that it happened to be very tasty. This allows the others to steal some booze, or in this case, buy it without consent since Cole pays for it. The idiotic teenagers enjoy the beer in a shed where things get out of control. We see Matt taking a leak when he ends up being attacked by Frendo, who causes him a huge intestine obstruction. Meanwhile, Cole explains that his father's factory burned down a few months ago, and that as they had invaded the place for fun, they ended up taking the blame. This explains why the inhabitants of Kettle Springs hate young people, as several people lost their jobs after the factory was shut down. Cole tells Quinn that they had nothing to do with the fire, as it happened due to a faulty wire. The conversation ends as Matt appears without his guts, and with a Frendo right behind him. Quinn has obviously watched a lot of horror movies, as she's the first to get up and run, until the girls admit that it was just a prank by Matt and Tucker, who dressed up as a clown. Cole Gang wanted to caught Quinn's spontaneous reaction on camera to put it on the internet. Anyway, as Quinn thinks Cole is the hottest guy in 300 miles, she spends some time with him on the couch and starts talking about her past. She and Glenn moved to the city because Quinn's mom overdosed, and the family needed a fresh start. Cole is also well acquainted with family tragedies, and he reveals that his sister had passed away last summer after she jumped off a cliff. In that occasion, his sister hit the ground instead of water. The morbid mood is interrupted by Janet, who clearly gets jealous of Cole and says they need to finish editing the video. Later, Cole takes Quinn home, and soon they start making out in the car, at least until Glenn goes into killjoy mode and pulls his daughter away from the boy. Glenn shouts at Quinn for drinking alcohol and tells Cole to stay away from her. Glenn and Quinn start a fight as the girl with hormones on the edge complains that she is always moving to another city and says she just wants to be okay. While she cries in her room, she gets the prank edited video that was filmed in the shed. Everything seems fun until Quinn notices that there is a second hidden Frendo watching them from the back. Quinn texts Juanius Tucker and asks why there's another clown in the video. He doesn't understand at first, but everything becomes clear when the boy receives a notification on his phone. When he checks the camera at the front door, Tucker sees Frendo standing there. Unfortunately, Tucker thinks it's just a joke from Matt and goes looking for his friend around the house. At this point, he could have called Matt, especially because he knew there was a second clown in the game. Matt would answer it and say that he wasn't the one at Tucker's house. This would allow Tucker to lock himself in a secured room and call the cops. Screw it, because Tucker opens the closet and finds the same clown music box seen at the beginning of the movie. He hears the melody and closes the door, only to be attacked by Frendo, who wipes him out with a knife and contributes to the kill count. The next morning, we meet Arthur Hill, Cole's father and owner of half of Kettle Springs. The millionaire is very disappointed that his son is acting like a miscreant on the streets and tries to lecture him, but the boy's mother prefers to spoil the kid and tells him to enjoy the day. We realize that it is a Founders Day's holiday, and there will be a parade to honor of Frendo. The young morons gather at the event, and Quinn asks if they have discovered the identity of the second clown. Janet thinks it's Rust, the human Shrek who accompanied Quinn to school. According to her, Cole and Rust were great friends before they had a fight. They also mentioned that Tucker is not responding to the group's messages. I guess the service must be very bad in hell. Anyway, Janet and Ronnie decide to set up another prank and send a guy to ride in the parade and play with a few explosives. As the guy did not pass the job interview at the circus, he soon fumbles and drops the explosives in the cornfield, which set it on fire. Sheriff Dunn doesn't like this at all, and upon seeing Quinn and Cole commenting on the situation, he simply decides to arrest the two along with the rest of the gang. In jail, Quinn says that the sheriff can't arrest them without charge, but the other teenagers mention that the sheriff is the law there.
I am the law!
Out of nowhere, the group realizes that they are in the same cell as a crazy old man, who looks at them and says that they will all die for mocking Frendo. A few hours later, they are released. Glenn picks up Quinn and lectures her as Dad thinks that the girl is being too rebellious. He says that Cole is dangerous, but Quinn replies that the factory accident was not his fault. Quinn also explains that the oldest inhabitants of the city are a pain in their ass, but Glenn ignores the complaint. We also see that Glenn bought Quinn a car, but she wants unwinds a little more after finding out that the car has manual transmission. Glenn bought that car on purpose just to teach his daughter how to drive the old-fashioned way and hope to have a father-daughter moment. Meanwhile, we see Matt working on his chest, as his orthopedist will certainly earn a lot of money to fix his spine. What is he doing there? Screw it, as Matt sees the same clown-themed music box and thinks Tucker stopped by to make fun of him. When he returns to the bench press, Matt realizes that it is not Tucker, but Frendo, who pushes the metal bar down. The clown puts a saw in the line of Matt's neck, which makes him terrified. In this situation, the boy had a few ways to escape this trap. The first way would be to rest his legs on top of the seat to have more strength to push the bar up. Another way would be to escape from below, sliding quickly down the seat. The third alternative would be to throw the bar back, which would allow Matt to get up and punch the damn clown. Unfortunately, he chooses the dumbest option as he tries to measure forces with the clown, who simply uses gravity to push the saw towards Matt and thus keeps his head as a souvenir.
He croaked.
Later, we see Cole calling Quinn to a party that will take place in the same place we saw at the beginning of the film. However, she says that she's grounded and can't attend to it. Today's her lucky day as Glenn falls asleep and Quinn simply runs away with Cole. On the way, Cole shows the music box to Quinn, which makes us suspect that he's the maniacal clown. She asks how the boy got the box, to which Cole replies that he has access to the factory's promotional items due to his family owning the place. The distraction makes Cole almost run over Russ, who had gone hunting at night. Once again, the human Shrek tells Quinn to watch out. We also find out that Cole and Rust used to hunt together in the past. Finally, the two arrive at the party, which is infested with dynamic young people. Cole and Quinn meet up with Ronnie and Janet. The girls are extremely mad at Matt, cause he should have given them a ride. Cole also says that Tucker is not responding to his messages, which stupidly leads the group to conclude that the two deceased boys are setting up a mega prank involving Frendo. The party music is interrupted by the DJ, who stops playing to lick Cole's eggs. Thanking the boy for financing the party, after giving a speech written by a preschooler, Quinn starts to feel a very intense heat down there and decides to seduce the kid in the barn. However, there's something wrong with Cole, as he's not responding to Quinn's kisses with the same effort. Cole then tells Quinn to take it slow and get to know each other better. Cole's lack of grip annoys Quinn, who ditches him and tells the boy to make up his mind soon. It is then that an envious Janet goes after Quinn to ask if she was also rejected. Apparently, Cole only makes the girl fall in love with him, but never gets into a relationship with her. The same happened to Janet in the past, which results in a fight between her and Quinn. That's when a scream coming from the cornfield breaks up the beef, as a girl named Ginger gets out of it and falls to the ground. Ronnie and Janet think that Tucker and Matt's prank has just started and play along by touching the girl's body, which was hit by an arrow in her back. Out of nowhere, Matt's head is thrown from the cornfield, but even so, the two girls don't get scared and think it is a replica made of plastic. However, this does not convince Quinn, who can't feel Ginger's pulse and realizes that she's dead. That's when Frendo comes out of the field and shoots an arrow in the face of the bootlicker DJ. The same thing almost happens to Janet, but Quinn grabs the lid of the trash and prevents the arrow from going through her rival's head. At this point, Quinn should have kept the cap precisely to protect herself from other arrows that the clown would surely shoot. However, the silly girl decides to throw the lid on the ground and runs with the others into the barn. They get screwed up as the young extras lock the ladies out, forcing the trio to go around the barn, where they suddenly come face to face with Rust. He tells them to duck and shoots Frendo in the chest, finishing him on the spot. Rust asks where Cole is, but they don't know his whereabouts. Quinn then suggests they call the police, but Janet replies that there is no phone service in that place. They even think about fleeing by car, but Rust tells them that there is no way, since the clown punctured the tires and destroyed all the vehicle's batteries. In this case, the group could have looked for the most modern car near the barn and check if at least one of them had the panic button. By pressing that button, a tracking signal is sent to a central, which is responsible for activating the emergency services. That way, the survivors would only have to stay safe long enough for rescue to arrive. Screw it, because if you think the movie will end prematurely, you can think again, since 7 more clowns come out of the cornfield. Russ doesn't think twice and shoots one of them in the hand, which I obviously wouldn't do. As the kid has a limited number of shells, the most obvious action would be to shoot to kill, precisely to reduce the number of evil clowns. Since no clown other than the first one had firearms or bows, Rust could have bluffed and threatened the maniacs by saying that he would shoot every single one of them if they didn't leave. The clowns already knew what human Shrek was capable of, so it's a clever tactic worth trying. Never mind, as Rust simply forgets he has the shotgun and prepares to retreat with the girls. Unfortunately, Quinn gets kicked from one of the Frendos. Lucky her, Cole comes to the rescue, who hits the clown with a shovel. The group hides in a wooden shelter and are soon surrounded by the clowns, as one of them uses a chainsaw to invade the place. Meanwhile, we see Glenn waking up from his princess sleep to make peace with Quinn. It doesn't take long for him to find out that he will have to talk to the pillows since the girl deceived him again. Back at the farm, we see the group despairing as Russ says he only has 3 more shells. One of the clowns breaks the wall, which forces Russ to use 2 of them to shoot down the maniac. Cole then argues with human Shrek, calling him stupid for wasting the ammunition. That's the opportunity for Rust returning the insult, as says that the idiot is Cole, who threw away everything the two had in the past. That basically confirms that they were boyfriends and explains Cole's repulsion for the school ladies.
Oh.
In this case, the young people should have armed themselves with the various tools present in the hovel, as the clowns would have to enter through the first opening made in the wall. This would give the advantage to the survivors, who could attack this small space at the same time, blocking the clowns' access to the place. Besides that, if the Frendos piled up in the same place, Rust could still use the last shells to hit multiple clowns at once, as this type of ammunition can expand. Screw it, because they end up noticing a sewer outlet on the floor and decide to escape through it. To divert the attention of the clowns, Rust proves to be a genius in the art of pyrotechnics, as he assembles an improvised explosive with gas. The human Shrek says he'll be right behind them, and then detonates the science fair bomb, which unfortunately doesn't send any clowns to the afterlife. Cole notices that Rust couldn't escape and tries to get back for him, but the girls say that he only has 1 more shell and won't be able to handle all the clowns. Given this, the group decides to walk to the nearest neighbor and use the landline to call the police. In the meantime, we see Glenn going to the clinic to look for Quinn, but he is taken hostage by one of the clowns, who forces the doctor to operate on the Frendo who had lost his hand. Glenn asks what's going on, but the healthy Frendo tells him to shut up. As the clowns are communicating through radios, the doctor hears that Quinn is running away from them and soon puts a daring plan into action to save his daughter. He disconnects the heart rate monitor from the handless clown's chest and tells the other clown to hold the defibrillator. Glenn soon proves to be a killer and buries the clown's knife in the criminal's throat. The doctor tells him not to remove the knife if he wants to survive, but maybe Frendo can't understand English very well, as he does not obey and dies due to the blood leak.
What a dumbass!
Meanwhile, we see Quinn and the others reaching the highway when they suddenly come across Sheriff Dunn, who orders Cole to put the gun down. They try to explain that they are being chased by the Frendo gang, but the cop obviously thinks it's another internet prank and simply traps Cole in the car and tells the girls to stop bothering him. Helpless, they decide to cross the cornfield to get to the neighbor's house. Another thing I wouldn't do in this situation. In this case, I would stay on the road to hitchhike the first driver I came across. In addition, there is the issue of visibility. On the road, the girls can see if clowns get near them, which is almost impossible inside the cornfield, where the height of the vegetation covers their sight. I warned them. A Frendo buries a chainsaw in Ronnie's chest, who gets what's like to be in a Leatherface film. Janet and Quinn run and arrive at the neighbor's house, who has already gone to meet the devil, as they see him dressed as a clown lying in his chair. The two go to the room, but they don't know how to dial the police number on the old-fashioned phone and despair. Quinn then notices that the walls are lined with newspaper clippings, where several cases of disappearances are reported and associated with Frendo. Realizing that the house owner is also involved in the scheme, they stupidly try to escape, but Janet is finished by the clown, who was just playing dead. Why? Quinn knocks out the villain with a potted plant, but he gets back on his feet. Quinn has no choice and grabs the pitchfork used to end Janet and attacks the clown in the same way, ending his life in the process. To avoid this mess, Janet and Quinn should have locked themselves in the room and grabbed objects to protect them, but never mind. Quinn steals the clown's car keys and tries to escape, but she really should have taken the driving lessons in a manual transmission car, since the truck uses this type of transmission. Because she can't engage it, Quinn is soon surrounded by by the Frendos, and unfortunately ends up being captured. I don't know why Quinn didn't get out of the car and keep running from the maniacs, when that was the only smart move at the time. Upon waking up, Quinn finds herself in the Bay Pen and face to face with Arthur, Cole's father. The guy is cosplaying as the Joker and reveals himself to be the great villain of the clown gang. The motivation is that Arthur simply hates Generation Z and says that the teenagers are the worst of all. The other clowns in the place reveal their identities, as we discover that they are the Otis, Trudy, Teacher Vern, and Sheriff Dunn himself. Quinn starts a crying complaint, which makes the sheriff shock the girl with a stun baton. That's where Arthur begins the famous villain monologue, revealing that his ancestors had a tradition of eliminating people who caused trouble for the community, which included the hippies from the 60s and the young Nirvana fans we saw at the beginning of the film. The fake Joker reveals that he sent the sheriff to capture Cole to finish him off too, as Arthur blames the boy for not taking care of his sister properly. Cole tries to give a motivational speech, saying that even if adults don't like it, the world will change because of the new generations. Arthur just ignores him and says he will put that speech in the farewell letter that the villain will write in name of Cole and Quinn to cover up his crime. The sheriff then prepares to finish Quinn off, but Glenn smashes the car gate as the collision sends both Otis and Trudy to the ditch. Teacher Vern gets angry, but Glenn knocks him out with the car door. Unfortunately, the doctor ends up exposing himself too much and gets shot by the sheriff. Wanting to protect her father, Quinn takes the stun baton and applies a charge to the officer. However, she makes a mistake here. If she had pressed the button any longer, the electricity would have knocked Dunn out, but no. The silly lady thinks that 3 seconds of shock will knock down a guy big like that. This makes the sheriff chase Quinn to a room where there are several Frendo costumes. Quinn dresses up as a clown and surprises Dunn from behind, turning him into static right away. Meanwhile, Arthur says goodbye to his son, who finally connects the dots and discovers that it was his father who set fire to the factory to keep the insurance money. The millionaire escapes the factory by car and leaves Cole suffocating as he finds himself trapped by a rope. Luckily for him, Glenn and Rust come to his aid and prevent the boy from following the light at the end of the tunnel. Rust and Cole finally decide to come out of the closet, while Quinn is reunited with her father. As Glenn was shot, he is unable to drive and finds himself in the role of teaching his daughter how to handle the manual transmission. That's where their path is crossed by Vern, who really should have played rock, paper, scissors more, since Chainsaw loses to a moving car. Sometime later, we see Glenn running for Kettle Springs mayor, while Quinn prepares to move to college. Cole and Russ show up to say goodbye to their friend and present her with a baton to guarantee her protection from perverted college students. In the end, Quinn gets into the car and realizes that someone left the clown music box inside the vehicle, something that doesn't scare the girl as she throws the object on the road. Clown in a Cornfield had good reviews from critics, but the audiences did not like the result very much. After watching so many bad clown movies in my life, I was really surprised for liking this one. The slasher footprint is very present, the characters are cool, and the movie jokes by pointing out several suspects as Frendo's real identity throughout the plot, which helps us dive into the story and try to guess who's wearing the mask. This turns out to be well thought out, since the film uses the original idea of Scream 2, where we would see a cult of ghost faces chasing Sydney, but in this story they are clowns, which breaks the expectation in a positive way. Nowadays, humor is another aspect that is present in films of the genre, and Clown in a Cornfield is no different, as the characters resort to various morbid jokes while being hunted by Frendo, something that pleases me too. Finally, the kills are brutal and very gory. The downside is that the clown doesn't have any personality trait that differentiates him from other killer clowns. Therefore, I give a 6.5 out of 10 to Clown in a Cornfield. This was one of the few films produced by Shudder to go to theaters, which proved to be a great success, since it cost only $1 million to make and earned more than $9 million. Given this, it would be crazy if the production did not adapt the other two books, which were recently released. Guys, help us to continue doing this work by subscribing to the Members Club, which gives you stamps and stickers to put in the comments and allows you to watch the videos without any ads. Without further ado, let's go to the kill count. The total number of kills in the film was 16, as the golden medal goes to Matt. Don't forget to make fun of the like button. I'll see you in the next video, and bye!